When an examiner assesses your IELTS essays, one thing they are looking for is uncommon and idiomatic items. However, when students use idiomatic language, such as in a nutshell or a double-edged sword, examiners often perceive these as being memorized phrases, which actually lowers your score. Instead of using memorized idioms that sound unnatural, a good idea is to use appropriate phrasal verbs for IELTS writing. Hello and welcome. My name is Eli and I run the website EnglishProTips.com, where we help students ace the IELTS test. Today we'll be learning these 10 advanced phrasal verbs for the IELTS writing test, as well as doing a quiz at the end. Let's start with the phrasal verb carry out. Carry out means to conduct or perform a task or research. It's commonly used in academic writing, especially to replace the word do. So instead of saying to do a task, research, analysis, or investigation, we could say to carry out a task, research, analysis, or an investigation. Let's see how we could use it in our IELTS writing. Have a look at this sentence. Scientists are doing a lot of research to understand the effects of climate change. This sentence is fine, but I think we could do better. How about scientists are carrying out extensive research to better understand the effects of climate change? We've changed are doing to are carrying out, a lot of research to extensive research, and understand to better understand. Let's have a look at another sentence. Before introducing a new policy, it is very important to do a lot of analysis of its impact. This sentence is fine, but we could improve it. How about before implementing a new policy, it is of paramount importance to carry out a thorough analysis of its potential impact. So instead of saying introducing a new policy, we've got the word implementing. So implementing a new policy. Instead of very important, we have of paramount importance. So that's much better. Also, instead of saying to do a lot of analysis, which sounds a bit clumsy, we have carry out a thorough analysis. Finally, instead of impact, we can say potential impact. So the meaning of these two sentences is similar, but the second one would get us a much higher score for IELTS writing. Now, remember in our IELTS test, we can often use the phrasal verb carry out with a task, research, analysis, and an investigation. By the way, stick around until the end of this lesson because we'll be doing a quiz to test your understanding. Moving on, we have point out. This phrasal verb is used to draw attention or highlight something. Pointing is when you do this. So imagine if you point at someone, you're going to draw attention to that person. Everyone is going to turn around and look at them. So instead of saying to show something, we can say to point out something. Here are two example sentences for point out. Instead of writing, teachers need to show the benefits of exercise in improving our thinking ability, we could write, teachers need to point out the benefits of regular exercise in improving cognitive function. So instead of show, we have point out. We improve upon exercise by saying regular exercise, and we show the examiner our advanced vocabulary by changing thinking ability to cognitive function. Now have a look at this sentence. It is very important to show the risks of using social media too much. Again, this sentence is fine, but we could make it better. How about, it is of paramount importance to point out the potential risks associated with excessive social media usage. So very important becomes of paramount importance. Show becomes point out. We change risks to potential risks, and using social media too much to excessive social media usage, which is great language for our IELTS writing test. Now, if you want to learn more useful vocabulary for the IELTS writing test, check out my IELTS vocabulary course. You'll learn advanced vocabulary for all of the common topics to appear in IELTS. Each lesson gives you the vocabulary with model answers, then you have quizzes, and even topic-related model essays to help you learn. You'll find all of this in the IELTS vocabulary course at englishprotips.com, where you can sign up for free. Next up is figure out. This phrasal verb means to solve a problem or understand something. In our writing, instead of saying to solve a problem, we can say to figure out a problem. Let's look at some example sentences. To develop sustainably, governments need to find a way to balance economic growth with the environment. Okay, let's make this better. In order to promote sustainable development, governments need to figure out how to balance economic growth with environmental preservation. So, what are the differences between these two sentences? In the first, we have to develop sustainably, but in the more advanced sentence, we have in order to promote sustainable development. In the first, we have find a way, but we can improve on this by using the phrasal verb figure out. Finally, instead of just saying the environment, we can wow our examiner by using the phrase environmental preservation, which is a great advanced collocation. Now, let's look at another example sentence. One of the big difficulties in the healthcare sector is to solve a way to provide cheap and easy service for everyone. Okay, how about one of the key challenges in the healthcare sector is to figure out how to provide affordable and accessible services for everyone. So, what changes have we made? Instead of big difficulties, we have key challenges. Instead of solve, we have the phrasal verb figure out. And then instead of cheap, we use the more academic word affordable. Finally, instead of easy, we have accessible. Next, we have put forward. We use this phrasal verb when we want to propose an idea, suggestion, or argument. So instead of saying to suggest an idea, we could say to put forward an idea. Let's have a look at this sentence. The student suggested a good argument in support of renewable energy. Which word can we use instead of suggested? We can use put forward. So the student put forward a compelling argument in favor of renewable energy. We've changed suggested to put forward, and we've also changed good argument to compelling argument, which is considered a more advanced collocation. Here's another sentence. Many experts have suggested the idea that investing in renewable energy can lead to a better environment and a better economy. Let's improve on this sentence. How about many experts have put forward the idea that investing in renewable energy can lead to both environmental sustainability and economic growth. So suggest is now put forward. A better environment is now environmental sustainability. And a better economy is economic growth. These small changes can help you to boost your IELTS writing score. The next phrasal verb is take into account. Take into account means to consider or include certain factors. So instead of writing to consider an idea, we can write to take into an account an idea. Have a look at this IELTS Task 2 question. Some people believe that certain old buildings are worth preserving more than others. Which type of old buildings should be preserved? Do the advantages of preserving old buildings outweigh the disadvantages? So this is a double question that could appear in your IELTS writing test. Let's see how we could use take into account when answering this essay question. How about city authorities ought to consider the cultural heritage and historical importance of the building. Okay, let's use take into account instead. City authorities ought to take into account the cultural heritage and historical importance of the building. So instead of consider, we have take into account. Now, what about this? It is important to consider whether the building is safe or not for people who live close. How about it is vital to take into account whether the building is safe or not for residents who live nearby. So we've changed important to vital, which is more advanced. We've changed consider to take into account, and we've changed people who live close to residents who live nearby. Number 6 is makeup. Now you'll know makeup as the stuff that you put on your face to change the way that you look. However, we can also use it in our IELTS writing. Makeup also means to compensate for something or create a story or an excuse. So instead of to compensate for something or to invent a story, we can use the phrasal verb make up. Let's have a look at another IELTS Task 2 question. Have a look at this one. Some parents give their children everything that they ask for and allow them to do what they want. What could be the consequences for these children when they grow up? Okay, so this is a slightly easier Task 2 question. How could we use make up to answer this? Right, let's look at some example sentences from an essay answering this question. Many parents give their children a lot of gifts to compensate for not being with them in their lives. Let's improve it. How about many parents give their children a lot of gifts to make up for not being present in their lives? We've changed the word compensate to make up and with them to present. Here's another sentence. Children who are spoiled when they are young are more likely to invent stories to get their own way. How about this? Children who are spoiled from a young age are more likely to make up stories to get their own way. So we've changed when they are young to from a young age and invent stories to make up stories. Next we have give rise to. Give rise to means to create a particular situation or reaction. So instead of saying to create something, we can often use to give rise to something instead. The growth of social media has created new challenges regarding online privacy and security. Let's make some small changes. The rapid growth of social media has given rise to new challenges regarding online privacy and security. So we've added rapid to growth and changed created to given rise to. Let's see another example sentence. Advances in AI, so that's artificial intelligence, have created concerns about job losses and the need for reskilling. Now, which phrasal verb can we use instead of create? We can use give rise to. So, advances in AI have given rise to concerns about job losses and the need for reskilling. Created has changed to given rise to. Our eighth phrasal verb today is lead to. Lead to means to result in something. So instead of writing to result in something, we can write to lead to something. Remember the question from before. Some parents give their children everything that they ask for and allow them to do what they want. What could be the consequences for these children when they grow up? Well, we could write, giving lots of gifts to young children can result in them becoming unappreciative and spoiled. Or even better, showering young children with gifts can lead to them becoming unappreciative and spoiled. So instead of giving lots of gifts to young children, we have showering young children with gifts. So a shower is what you get into in the morning or at night to keep yourself clean. And water comes from a shower. Imagine instead of water, you've got lots of gifts showering you, so coming down on you. Now, instead of can result in, we have can lead to. Now, we'll often use a phrasal verb like lead to when the IELTS question is asking us about a consequence. So if you see a phrase like, what could the consequences be? You'll know you can use lead to in your IELTS essay. Number 9 is stem from. So a stem is this part here. So you can imagine a stem has to grow from somewhere, like the earth or the water. So stem from means to have a specific cause or origin. Instead of saying to be caused by something, we can say to stem from something. Let's have a look at some example sentences. The rise in youth crime can often be caused by not enough educational opportunities and socioeconomic disadvantages. That's already a very impressive sentence. But how about the rise in youth crime can often stem from a lack of educational opportunities and socioeconomic disadvantages? Even better. We've changed be caused by to stem from and not enough to a lack of. Let's have a look at another sentence. Mental health issues, such as anxiety and depression, can be caused by the stress of exams. Now, instead of saying be caused by, what's the phrasal verb we can use? We can say mental health issues, such as anxiety and depression, can stem from the stress of exams. So be caused by can be changed to stem from. The final phrasal verb today is culminate in. We use culminate in to describe the process of reaching a significant point or event after a series of developments. It's a bit like lead to, which we saw earlier in this lesson. So instead of saying to result in something, we can say to culminate in something. Let's have a look at two example sentences. Long-term investments in education and skill development result in a highly educated workforce and economic prosperity. Okay, how about long-term investments in education and skill development culminate in a highly educated workforce and economic prosperity? So result in can be changed to culminate in. Let's have a look at another sentence. Years of hard work and dedication resulted in her winning the championship. How about years of hard work and dedication culminated in her winning the championship? That's more advanced. Again, we've changed resulted in to culminated in. Basically, both culminated in and lead to can be used to show a result, so we can often use them interchangeably. We can say, my arguments with the boss got worse and worse and finally culminated in my resignation, or led to my resignation. Right, let's test your understanding in a 10-question quiz. Number 1, she something an elaborate story to explain her absence. Okay, here are the options. Which one of these would fit into the space? She stemmed from an elaborate story, she gave rise to an elaborate story, she made up an elaborate story, or she carried out an elaborate story. Which one would you put in this space? The answer is made up. So remember, we can make up, which means to invent a story. Number 2, the government's effort to promote education, something higher literacy rates. Here are your options. 5 seconds to choose. The answer is led to. Now remember, lead to can mean to result in. So lead to, result in. The government's effort to promote education led to higher literacy rates, meaning resulted in higher literacy rates. Number 3, the professor something several key findings in her research. Here are the options, 5 seconds to choose. The answer is pointed out. The professor pointed out several key findings in her research. Now remember, point out is another way of saying to show. So the professor showed several key findings in her research. We can improve this by using the phrasal verb point out. Number 4, he couldn't something how to solve the complex math problem. Here are your options. Your 5 seconds starts now. The answer is figure out. He couldn't figure out how to solve the complex math problem. Now remember, figure out means to solve. So he couldn't solve he couldn't find a way to solve the complex math problem. Number 5, the government needs to something research to understand pollution levels. Here are your options. Your 5 seconds starts now. The answer is carry out. The government needs to carry out research to understand pollution levels. So carry out means to do research. And remember, we said we can carry out research, we can carry out a task, or we can carry out an investigation. Number 6, the committee decided to something a new proposal for funding educational programs. Here are your options, 5 seconds. The answer is put forward. The committee decided to put forward a new proposal for funding educational programs. Remember, put forward is another way of saying to suggest. Number 6, when writing an essay, it's important to something opposing viewpoints. What would fit into this space? The answer is take into account. So take into account means to consider. You need to consider different viewpoints. Number 8, the economic crisis, something widespread unemployment and financial instability. Here are your 4 options. 5 seconds. The answer is gave rise to. So give rise to means to create. So the economic crisis created widespread unemployment. We can use the phrasal verb give rise to improve our writing. Number 9, the success of the project, something the collaborative efforts of the team. So collaborative efforts mean people working together. Here are your 4 different options. Your 5 seconds starts now. The answer is stemmed from. So to stem from means to be caused by. The success of the project stemmed from the collaborative efforts of the team. So it was caused by the collaborative efforts of the team. Number 10, years of research and development, something the invention of revolutionary technology. What would be the answer from these 4 options? The answer is culminated in. So culminated in is the same as lead to. Years of research and development culminated in the invention of revolutionary technology. A very impressive sentence that you could put into your IELTS writing test. Right, I hope this lesson has been useful, and I hope you've learnt some useful phrasal verbs that you can use in your IELTS writing test. Best of luck, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye then.